Hey everybody, I'm Joe. We're talking about the Marvel Multiverse Game today, and today we're going to talk about how to make your character unkillable. Here we go. Today is a little bit of a thought experiment and also a way of examining the rules and the rule set and the boundary of what powers you can take inside of Marvel Multiverse. We are examining how to make a character as hard to kill as possible. That is not to say you necessarily want to do this. First of all, you might feel that it is a little bit unfair or not sportsmanlike to make your character as unkillable as humanly possible. And maybe there is a handshake arrangement between your narrator and you as a player that says, I won't make my villains unkillable as long as you don't do these things as well. And of course, if you're making a character that is as hard to kill as possible, I would run that conversation with your narrator and make it part of the story of your character. But all of that aside, there are multiple ways in Marvel Multiverse of making your character incredibly powerful and essentially unkillable. And I want to explore those things in this video. As we get into this, and as I do other builds on this channel, by the way, I want to talk a little bit about being a min-maxer or talk about being someone who builds very specific glass cannon or powerful characters. When I build a character for myself or my own games, or as a narrator when I'm building a villain or an NPC, I am not explicitly setting out to make a character that is as game-breaking as possible. I don't think that's even the most fun way to play. But if you have an idea for a character that is particularly powerful in one or two ways, then I see no problem with going after that concept. And so if it fits within the story and the world and the way that your narrator runs the game, I think that these might be open to some conversations and some potential for your character build. Here is the first major tip in making a character harder to kill, and is the interaction between the damage reduction powers and the field protection powers. Let's get into this. The first and most obvious way to reduce the ability for someone to kill your character is anything that reduces damage. So the damage reduction powers are going to be the shield powers 1 through 4 or the sturdy powers 1 through 4. Please note, you cannot stack types of damage reduction. So you cannot have shield 4 and then sturdy 4 and have a damage reduction of 8. It doesn't work. You must choose one or the other path, but each one reduces the damage that comes in from an attack. That's all well and good, but we can do way better than just that, and we can interact damage reduction with protective field. We are going to interact damage reduction with one of two different powers that are going to absorb damage. These are really the same power, they're just flavored differently and in two different power sets. I call these the field powers. They are elemental protection, levels 1 through 4, and telekinetic protection, levels 1 through 4. Each one creates a field around you, and for every different power within this range that you take, levels 1 through 4, it has 10 additional points, essentially of health. If an attack would do damage to you, but that damage would be less than the health of your protective field, you take nothing. The wording of the power also indicates that the field does not have hit points per se, it simply then would persist at max power. On the other hand, if an attack would do more damage than the health of your elemental protection field or telekinetic protection field, whichever one it is, then that field is destroyed. However, you still do not take damage. Here is where the protection powers get really good. If this is down and you do get hit, then having the shield or the sturdy powers will reduce the damage that you take. But moreover, the protection powers are actions or reactions. So as an action on your turn, you can bring up your protection power, whatever level you want to. Or when you are about to take damage, when it is not your turn, you can utilize a reaction to bring up your protective field. Because the wording stipulates that if your field would be destroyed, you still take no damage. In other words, it does not carry over any additional amount. This is an incredible use of a very low amount of focus. There are reasons that even at higher level, you might use Elemental Protection 4 or Elemental Protection 1. Let's get into this thought process. First of all, if you were to use Elemental Protection 4, it would have 40 points of health, and any attack coming in that would do damage to you that is under 40, which very well might happen a reasonable amount of the time, simply does nothing. Now the question is, does that interact with your damage reduction powers? And by the reading that I'm looking at, it would. In other words, you would take an attack coming in, you would reduce the damage you would take by an amount that is appropriate from the shield or the sturdy powers. And if that reduces it below the threshold of your elemental protection, it is simply negated. If, on the other hand, it is still over that amount, you still take no damage. On the other hand, since even Elemental Protection 1, which costs only 5 points of focus, completely negates any amount of damage that you would take, there's every reason to bring up the very low-level versions of the power, particularly as a reaction. And as a result, you can nullify any attack no matter how big or how powerful. This is a first-level power that has utility even at high levels of play, and I think it's pretty amazing. As a result, this is a great reaction power to spend for low amounts of focus. It's a great set of powers that will integrate with your shield bearer or your sturdy powers and make you effectively unkillable. The second way to make your character less killable is the rank 2 power Leech Life. I love this power. It's in the magic power set. It is a rank 2 requirement, so you can pick this up really early, and it is for ego-based characters. This is a reaction power, and there's a lot of these in the game. A reaction power where you have to actually grapple or grab somebody, and then you can utilize your reaction to trigger this power. It is, there's a lot of these. When you try to time travel somebody else or send somebody else to another dimension, it's the same concept. So we have to grab somebody, utilize a reaction, and use Leech Life. When you do, you spend 5 points of focus, you make an ego attack against their resilience, and now you can drain health from them, and you heal half that value. On a fantastic success, you heal all of that value. This is an amazing way of not only doing combat damage, but keeping yourself at full health. And it's a really good reason to take the magic power set. The next way to essentially make your character unkillable is with Protection Hex. This is really cool. This is in the magic power set. You must be a chaotic magic user and you must be rank 3. This is going to give you the ability to make your character completely sad or single attribute dependent. It takes an action on your turn and 10 points of focus, but you make an ego check. Little piece of advice, you definitely want to make sure that Protection Hex is what you do as your signature attack, because then you'll automatically get an edge on the check. But when you do this, you make a roll that is based on ego, and you will then create a new defense score. This defense score, using your ego score, so you get all of your ego bonus to it, becomes your defense for every single one of your defenses. Your logic, your melee, your agility, all of them. I love this power because the magic power set entirely relies on the ego score for everything that you want to do. So a character going into the magic power set wants to take Protection Hex if they can, and then all that they have to do is boost their ego as high as it can go, and then boost their vigilance as high as it can go to make sure that they have plenty of focus. And now you don't really need to worry all that much about your actual melee score or your logic score. It doesn't matter because you're going to be able to defend yourself incredibly well. Here's the next way to essentially make your character unkillable, and that is Blink. Blink is in the Teleportation power set. It has a requirement of only rank 1 and being in the Teleportation power set. So you can pick this up at rank 1, and it can be used as an action or a reaction, making it one of very few powers that's like that. Talking about it as a reaction, when you are targeted with an attack, you quite simply are able to teleport away. That's it. It's that simple. The attack then just would not hit you unless it has a larger range where it could also hit the space you teleport to. And that's a possibility, but as your character levels up, you can teleport farther distances away. There is an advanced version of this that is Blink Defense. You need to be rank 3 for this, but it allows you to teleport, grab a projectile that was fired at you, and throw it at somebody else, which is pretty neat. Of course, if you are taking the Blink Power or Blink Defense, you are going to want to take Combat Reflexes as a trait, which gives you an extra reaction, and that allows you to now blink out of existence and dodge 2 attacks. The next way to make your character unkillable is Quick Phase. Quick Phase is one of the powers in the phasing power set, and you use your reaction when you are targeted with an attack to become intangible. When you are intangible, you are completely immune to any type of physical damage. Now, you can't harm someone else in this position, but you are still alive. You can run away and you can get out of that particularly bad situation. So this turns off your offensive capabilities, but it does an amazing job for your defensive capabilities. But the last way to effectively make yourself unkillable actually has the phrase unkillable in the description of the power, and it is elemental form. And I actually want to read you part of the description so that you know that I'm serious about this. So the effect: the character's body is made entirely of their element, which gives them a steady supply of their element to use and makes them essentially unkillable. If you drop below 1 health, so if you go into 0 or negative territory, your form dissipates and it has to be healed back together, but you can do that with a expenditure of karma and a recovery check, of course. If you have at least 1 health, over time you will reform. And so this is pretty amazing. So elemental form is in the elemental control power, and you need to be rank 3 in order to take it, but it is permanent. This can never be shut off. It is not concentration. And when you are in the elemental control power set, you choose one particular power with an additional effect. Hellfire's my favorite, by the way, and you can use that as part of your attacking sequence. In elemental form, you are now made out of your element, and since it is permanent, this never goes away. You are unkillable, which is pretty amazing. Can you get around any of these? Eventually, yes, you absolutely can. There are ways of depleting focus rather than health. There are ways of doing psychic attacks that get past the physical damage limitations of phasing. But these powers make you incredibly resilient in this game. All right, that's what I've got for you this time. Thanks for joining me. YouTube is literally made out of buttons. I hope you press some of them, and I'll see you next time. All right, peace.